Hi, it's Martin from Martin's Engine Services. Making a little video today on this now not so damp Thursday afternoon. It's actually warmed up a little bit, but it's been a horrible rainy, damp, very chilly morning. So, on the bench we have the 1400 stock car engine, and I fitted a head gasket to a few weeks ago, which unfortunately failed halfway through race one last Saturday. No, correction, Sunday. This was fitted with the same gasket and head bolts that I featured in a video on Monday about the stretching head bolts. And unfortunately, very much as I suspected had happened. I put the gasket on the right way round. Right, this is how the gasket sat on the engine. Now, cylinder 1 here had blown quite badly through this area here, and likewise through 3 and 4. Now on the block side of the gasket, it's actually burnt a chunk out, and there was carbon and deposits on a couple of the bolts. Now, first thing I did when I got this engine back this morning was to do obviously a compression test, and we had sort of about 5, 10, about 75 and about 80, which ain't enough. I then tried a leak down test, and the air was obviously escaping through everywhere, but also, and I've seen this before, got me a bit worried, there was actually bubbles in the oil all around the camshafts. But what had happened, of course, here's the oil feed, comes up through the block here, and goes up round the bolt to the cams, or one of the oil feeds. No, that is the primary oil, yeah, that is the primary oil feed. What had happened, the gasket's so blown here that the air pressure is escaping through the cylinder and going in and pressurizing the oil. So I thought, okay, that's a new one. So after all that, I then thought, now let's see if those head bolts will move. Because when I did this up, and I mentioned it on the video, I didn't like the way they felt. Of course, we now know the problem. And all the bolts went a good turn and a half. I thought, that confirms it. So pulled the head off, and I'm looking down the cylinders. Once the head was off and I turned the bottom end over, it did feel very, very tight. So I looked down the cylinders, and here's piston number 1, and I get greeted by these little chunks showing around the side. And there's aluminium on the top of the cylinder, and I thought, oh no, it's done a piston. So I've pulled the bottom end apart, and as you can see, it has indeed picked up the top of the piston. Now, the top piston ring is actually completely trapped in the piston. I thought, okay, that's weird. And there's no pickup or any signs of burning below the top ring. The other 2 rings came out fine. The oil control ring was all right. So was ring number 2. As you can see, there's no problem on the skirt. There's no pickup there. This is scuffing because these are very old pistons now, and this has done a lot of work, this engine. Likewise, they've all got scuff marks on. There we go. That's the thrust side. They've all got scuff marks, but it's not too much of a problem. So okay, now here comes even the better bit. Can't move the conrod. The gudgeon pin is completely trapped in the piston boss. It would appear that the piston is actually crushed in its depth. Big M was okay. The bearings have all suffered from extreme overloading and pressure, where obviously they've been rattled, shook about, and etc. So they're all pretty marked up, but none of them had failed. The piston hasn't hit the cylinder head. So all I can think has happened, well, I'm pretty certain, of course, cylinder number 2, piston moves fine, is coming up to fire. The explosion of combustion has travelled across the gap in the gasket and has met this piston effectively on its way up. Now, of course, this piston's on its way up, been pushed up by the other cylinders firing. The explosion's come in and it's hit the top of this piston, and you will have had a lot of piston rattle as it's been banging it on the bore. You wouldn't hear that over the noise of the exhaust in the other cars. But I think what's basically happened, the explosions were so great on the top, and the heat's been so great that that's what's melted the alley, and it's effectively crushed the piston. Now I've just measured these with the vernier across the skirts, and these three are all the same dimension. This piston across the skirt here is actually about 1/2 mm narrower. It is also narrower across the piston boss. So I think what's effectively happened, it's just tipped, well it's not tipped, it's actually squashed the piston, hence that's the problem. All the other rings are absolutely fine, there's no problem, there's no pickup on the others. Piston pins and gauge pins are all fine. So rods appear fine, although if we do use these rods again I will check this one for straightness on the off chance, but there's no sign of it being a problem. So that appears to be what's happened. The gasket's let go, and of course the fact that it did most of a race like that and all the conflicts going on between the combustion cycles and piston strokes has caused that. So I say the block is definitely going to need a rebore now, because it doesn't really show up. Oh, you can see it. You've got quite a ridge there, and there is another ridge. If I can get it in the right light, that ridge there. Just get that to focus on there. That is actually the ridge between where the two rings run. So I think that much pretty done. Cylinder 3 here, that's got a fairly substantial ridge. So it's time for rebore on that one. Crankshaft's absolutely fine. Turns lovely on the mains. There's a few minor scratches on the big ends, minor scuffs, but they'll polish up. There's no real concern with the crank. No real damage. The oil was clean. Looked in the bottom of the sump. There's no metal anywhere. Nothing horrible going on there. These usual tiny bit of iron residue off the rings get with these, but that's all right. So no concerns on that one. Oil pump's fine. So cylinder head will now probably, well, will definitely now have a skim, without a doubt. Tiny mark there, but I think give this a tiny decking to be on the safe side. This one hasn't been decked in the past, so a little skim will be fine. So obviously you go too far with these engines, as I think I mentioned previously, and you lower the head onto the block, of course it skews the cam timing a little bit. But I've measured this one, and it's actually slightly above spec actually. There is a minimum and maximum thickness, or minimum thickness on these heads, and this one's they give 2 sizes in the manual, and this one's actually over that size anyhow, so it hasn't actually surprised me. Well, it didn't run that long, I suppose, but it hasn't just left some head gasket deposits, but yeah, there's nothing too major there, but there we go. Unfortunately, the bolt problem, which I'm very fortunate to say I've caught on that engine, is unfortunately done for this engine. It's one of them ones, I'm afraid. I feel pretty bad about it actually, because obviously it's let somebody down on a day, and it's out of your control when you get defective parts. There's not a lot of good complaining about these parts in detail, because the minute they find out they've been used for race applications, then it's no, that's what caused it. It's a bit of a letdown, say, because these bolts I've used before, and these gaskets without problem, and the fact of what happened with the bolt, which I now know, is what's caused it. Still, we shall get it resolved. You've got a few days to get that one done, which it will be done, and in the car, and say tuned up and ready to go. And what I'll probably do is sort of get another block from stock. We've got a few, get that one cleaned up, use this crankshaft and oil pump, which is nice, and get that head skimmed. I know the valves are all good in this, because I have tested them today, putting the plugs in, say pouring paint thinners in, and there's no leakage on the ports. So take the cams out, the valves will shut, lick it over and give it a clean, it'll be fine. So it's not too much of a disaster anyhow. I did actually think when I saw the piston, I thought, oh god, it's broken the rings up and we've got real carnage, but it left a few little deposits of alley on the top of the block, but absolutely fine everywhere else. So there we go. So it's been a bit of a chaotic day. You see it's a bit of a bomb site here. And I don't like this kind of mess, so I'm going to have a nice tidy up, cup of tea, a very late lunch, or probably an early tea, early dinner, and then bits for that will be here tomorrow, so I can crack on and get that done. I've got all the parts here from the engine I stripped this morning, which can now go on to the spare engine, so we will have a complete set of bits. And possibly over the weekend, I will assemble the Ford engine, which has now been thrown over there on a pallet because I needed the other stand. So it's got a bit hectic this morning, but there we go. So that's the net result of those stretchy head bolts that refuse to stretch. In fact, I'm just looking over here in the light at that cylinder, and there's another big wear area halfway down. So, hope you enjoyed this little video on what can happen when things go badly wrong. Well, it could have been a lot worse. We could have had a total destruction, crankshaft destroyed, good set of rods destroyed, etc. So, could have been a lot worse. So, I hope you enjoyed this video, what's been happening on a somewhat traumatic Thursday, or we should entitle this video. And so please like and subscribe. Gained another subscriber today, which is really, really good. So we're up to 91 now, so pushing on to the 100. So thanks very much indeed for watching, and bye for now.